Let's continue in our walk in Romans 8. Here, I'd like to focus on the love of God, which is utterly amazing. And it starts here in Romans 8, verse 29. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom he predestined, he also called. And those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? Who shall bring any charge against God the elect? It is God who justifies. Who is to condemn? Christ Jesus is the one who died. More than that, who was raised, who is at the right hand of God, who is indeed interceding for us. The love of God is so great. So from verse 29 to verse 34, you could also bring in verse 35. But in that passage, it just says, the love of God has seen you from afar. He foreknew you. That means he knew about you before you were. Now, a lot of Christians who are a bit like, if you like to do intellectual exercises, you'll be like, so who had a choice in my salvation? And then you start to do the whole debate between Arminianism and Calvinism, and you lose the point. The point is not, who does the whole salvation? Obviously, it's Jesus. Do you have a choice? Well, obviously you do, because there's still people who are lost. The question is not, how does this work? Is this chronologically? Is this all together? Paul just tries to mount up those things together and saying, he called you, he predestined you, he justified you, he glorifies you. What is that meaning? And then he comes in verse 31 to this conclusion. If God is for you, who can be against you? He who did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all these things? What things? Well, being destined, being called, being justified, being glorified. Those things. Now, it doesn't say all things, and meaning like everybody will drive a Ferrari. That's not the point. The point is, he's called you. What an amazing thing. He knows you from afar. What an amazing thing. He justified you. What an amazing thing. He is glorifying you more and more. What an amazing thing. Glorifying means becoming more like Jesus. How glorious is that? God is for you. Who can be against you? He did not spare his own Son, gave him up for us all. The love of God. Who is to condemn? And that just goes full circle back to Romans 8:1. Therefore, there is now no condemnation. Why is there no condemnation? Christ Jesus is the one who died. Perfect Son died. More than that, who was raised. God is not even sad about the death of Christ anymore, because he is raised. He's sitting at the right hand. He's interceding for us. Nothing is able to separate you from the love of God. That's just amazing. My call to you today would just take some time to worship Jesus for the cross, what he did. Realize how much he's been giving to you. Enjoy it. Just that, and see what comes out of it. Christ is amazing. He did all these things for you. He gave you all things. All things. He called you, foreknew you, destined you. He justified you, and he glorified you. God bless you guys. See you tomorrow.